who is willing and has taken several risks in academia to break boundaries that many of us in academics have not been comfortable doing. And I think one of the reasons he does that is because he has a quotient in leadership, which several people in leadership studies has actually studied, which is called political leadership or political agility. It's part of a framework developed by leadership studies researchers in the United States, where leadership is divided into 4 styles: symbolic leadership, human resource leadership, structural leadership, and political leadership. And interestingly, 3 years ago, when leaders at the university, when we did a self-assessment about our relative areas of strength and spaces that we had to grow, Professor Biju Tom interestingly had a very high quotient in the area of political leadership. And at that point of time, he told me that he was surprised, but I think for those of us who've known him well over the years, it was no surprise, because we could easily correlate that with the kind of work that he has done to build the institution, especially building professional courses in our institution, which is now, I think, on par and above par when you compare professional courses, not just in the country, but internationally. And I think that is a testimony of his ability to work across boundaries, take risks, and show courage when many of us in academics, fail to show that kind of courage. Professor Biju Tom professionally has an undergraduate degree in science, physics, I think, from Calicut University, has gone on to do master's programs in management and related fields, has several professional certifications. But what's not in the CV here that was circulated to all of you is that he was an IAS aspirant, and he was just this close to making it. And that is quite evident because he's one person you can speak to about science, about humanities, about political science, history, any field. And I used to wonder why he's so well versed with almost every other discipline. And I know that the rigorous studies that he and time that he put into preparation for IAS. Professor Biju has also, like I said earlier, built the professional studies department here, and also played a key role, but often behind the scenes, in establishing several other relationships for the university. A good example of that being his work with the United Nations Training Institute recently, and the initiative that he's taken to make sure that students at the university have benefit of that. Today, Professor Biju will be sharing some of his experiences and thoughts and ideas about negotiation as an important part of political leadership, and how he, as a person, has been able to negotiate in several situations to ensure ultimately that the institution develops and is where it is today. So thank you, Professor Biju, for being willing to speak to us on Leadership Conversation. And maybe I'll start off by asking you to tell us a little bit about negotiation. For many academics, including me, we find that very hard to do. When we'll have to really go out there and speak for the institution and break through forces in the market or in the economy or in the community, or even if it's as simple as establishing an MOU with another university to speak about the university and negotiate where we are seen as equals. That's something challenging. So some thoughts and some experience from you on your journey being what I would call like a master negotiator.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Tony, for this wonderful introduction. I really got excited with the introduction that you've just made. I must tell you that I learned a new technique now in how to introduce someone in that so assuring a tone that I've always watched whenever you go on stage. So thank you for that wonderful introduction. And Dr. Tony was mentioning about the survey that was conducted, and when I got the results, I was really angry, I must say, because I was really shocked and surprised. But then he explained what this is. And it was such a good insight and good learning, and to know about what is the style that you've been doing. And it also helped me to have a deeper reflection into whatever things that I've been doing. So at the outset, again, let me thank you for this opportunity. Being a psychologist, you understood that these are the areas probably where I am so comfortable with. So thank you for giving these topics, because these topics are so central to me, so close to me. So and I'm very passionate about whenever I step into an opportunity that I get for negotiation. So personally, for me, one of the important thing I've noticed is in a negotiation is not only the context in which you conduct the negotiation, the people involved are important. And today I will add one more component, that is the ecosystem in which this negotiation happens. So generally what happens is when you get a opportunity to negotiate, primarily it will come as probably a draft. We call it as the first draft. Invariably, what people do is they read through the draft once, then just check whether is there anything that is harming the individual concerned. And then probably they'll go for a second reading, and they would look whether the institution that they represent is harmed. And third thing they would do is probably sign it.
You're speaking about agreements.
Generally agreements and MOUs.
Right.
But I would want, or probably the way that it would be ideal, or you can optimize if you can think about. A result is, when you get a draft, just go through the draft. And in my case, I look at two areas. One is, I call it as, where is the locus of authority in that draft? Where is the locus of power in that draft? And my reading is over. My first reading will be over. And what is the advantage of this? Because I strongly believe, I don't know, I may need some corrections in my belief system, which is so integral in me, that I feel negotiation is always a conversation between two equals, or maybe the parties involved should be on an equal footing. Why? Because when I look at the draft, where the locus of authority or locus of power is, because at the end of the day, if a negotiation or if a draft or a document that is going to come out is having a superior subordinate relationship or a master servant kind of a relationship, it is not going to sustain. So to have a sustainability, to test the times, we need to have a discussion, a negotiation with parties on an equal footing. So when I get a draft, what normally I do is I'll do some gardening work. And what do? I'll probably, if required, a bulldozer also I'll bring in to see that if there are elevations, mounds and all this, we will level. And the next draft I prepare would be on a plain ground that we do it. And then we send it back to them and I call it by a pet name, counter proposal.
Counter proposal.
So counter proposal is something which very strongly communicate to the parties involved and going to be the negotiation that, look, we have an equal opportunity, we have an equal stake in exploring the opportunities together.
Right. And if I might just interrupt you for a second, I know that you've had a lot of opportunities to create agreements with corporate, with professional bodies, and also with universities.
Right.
For many faculty members here, the experience has been creating MOU drafts with universities. But even there, we have seen universities coming in to sign agreements where they have the upper hand. Just today, I got an email from a university in UK where they want to give some lectures in neuroscience. But what they really want is to market their university to our students.
Exactly.
And so picking up from where you said, it makes sense for us to actually locate that locus of authority
Exactly.
and make a shift.
Yes.
You shared some interesting examples with me yesterday, of course, without naming organizations. Any example where you actually brought in the bulldozer, where you did the gardening and where you gave a counter proposal?
Yes. I don't want to name the organization.
Without naming, yeah.
Yeah. That was exactly the second organization, professional body that we negotiated with later. But that was also the first professional body that we approached. Right. So I wrote to them, and it is the world's largest accounting body, present in almost 185 countries. So I sent mails after mails after mails and no response. So then Professor Subramaniam was there, our former dean, and then later he became the registrar. He was with us in the department and supporting, and by then he had become dean then. And Subramaniam sir's credentials are so impressive. So he has a long tail of qualifications. Right. So I approached him, sir, let us draft a mail. And he wrote the mail. And what happened was they responded saying that you show the results and then we'll come and talk to you. That was the kind of discussion. But what happened was, in between, we got another brilliant professional body. And with them, we started our MOU. And we started off. And within 1 year, we started producing excellent results. Excellent results we started producing. That prompted this particular professional body to come running. Then we showed a very strong no to them. And I would definitely will be touching upon it when I talk about our student strength. What is the advantage when you have such a strong students? And I was sharing with Tony sir, what is one unique differentiating factor for Christ University vis-a-vis so many other colleges? I have no doubt in telling that it is our student strength, our student diversity. And many a time we overlook, we do not know how to really exploit, I don't say exploit, but then explore the opportunities provided by the student strength. I'll just give an example going back. This second body, when they came, we refused to negotiate. 6 of them came. What I did was I took them to room number 711 in the second block, where till date I remember the batch which I cannot forget. That is the 2009-2012 batch, the best batch, I would say. I took these people to interact with them. I call this as indirect negotiation.
Indirect negotiation.
Yes.
Using students.
And they will just, because at the end of the day, professional bodies want to know which are the kind of stakeholders, the students, the strength of the students. And they did 90% of what we did. And it paid off. And they really gave us quite a lot of paper exemptions, a lot of support, whatever we wanted to communicate. I think we had, probably I didn't want to say this, but then we had a little bit of upper hand in getting it done. And this is one of the beautiful MOUs that we have.
So in a sense, you create opportunities for those you are having agreements with to actually see the kind of work that we're doing, which actually is the students.
Fine.
You were just telling me that the CA results were out last night.
Yes.
And quite a lot of them have cleared the exams.
Yes.
So there's a lot of quality of our students that is directly shown to the people who come.
So you were mentioning about my civil service preparation 30 years back. But let me tell you, whatever I learned then, it still is very, very fresh in mind. I don't know how it is happening. So I just want to mention one of those particular reading I have from Radhardath and Sundaram. They were writing about Indian economy. So in that, there is a beautiful statement. It says that India has a growing season throughout the year.
Right.
So if you are a very good academic and if you are very smart, you will have a reaping season also throughout the year. Now you look at our results. Every month we are inundated with success stories only. Because just a few, I think yesterday I have not consolidated all the numbers. We have one student said he's got 28th rank.
Right.
Some 17 would have completed. So we are almost inching towards that magic 800 chartered accountants from the department over this 18 years, 19 years, 20 years.
That's a big number.
That's a big number.
Mass.
That is an influential number. And that is a number which will help you when you negotiate with the next professional body. So, and one more thing which you said earlier, you said about university, the negotiations that we have with university, that is the least I have had so far. But negotiations with professional bodies and negotiations with corporates are a totally different ballgame. Because one of the big challenge I find in both the entities is that today I negotiate to discuss with you.
Right.
2 days later, when I come representing the university, someone else will be sitting there. And then you will have to start from alphabet A again. That is one aspect. Second, I find the biggest challenge is probably the mindset. Some places I find that they do not want to continue what the predecessor started. So there are plenty of challenges. But on the other hand, you have a particular strength, because when a particular professional body comes and I'll say, I have seen almost 8 leaders sitting in that chair and I've spoken to all of them. So that way you have a better advantage in talking and negotiating.
And I'm sure that, there are often challenges we face in our personal life when it comes to negotiation. So is there a personal space where we have a particular style of negotiating, which we can transcend or overcome when we are negotiating for the university? And are there characteristics or qualities that we need to possess if we have to be effective in negotiation? For example, the ability to take risks, for instance.
Yes. Oh, this is I will give a long answer.
I'll cut it short in between, don't worry.
No, but let me tell you, in all negotiations, my personal observation is it's a conversation, as I said, between equals. And then I would add to it that people with a positive mindset, people who are brilliant come together and they share ideas. It is not absolutes that we share.
Right.
If you are sharing absolutes with each other, then it doesn't take us long. That is why many a time we would say, if you go back to our own departments, you will have so many skeletons of failed negotiation. I call it failed negotiation. So many skeletons. And how do you manifest all this failed negotiation? It is seen as failed MOUs. So I'll come back to your question. So the point is, when you have a series of MOUs with you, I categorize them under 3 heads. It's geography, I would put that, because you say volcanoes are classified into 3 sets. One is what we call it as the active volcano, then you call dormant, then you have sleeping, or means extinct volcano. Sorry, extinct, dormant and active. Now, if you look at many of and why I call it as volcanoes, there are volcano opportunities. Why are we not exploring? That is the major point. So in a negotiation, in a discussion, what happens is when I said you share ideas, isn't it? When you share ideas, one particular area I want to emphasize is what is your agility to mutate on the ideas that is being transacted. Now, like mutate means it's now a negative word because after COVID and you think that but you should understand one thing. Mutation also occur where a troublemaker also will transform into a gentleman. it will not be always
So
troublesome.
How do you use the analogy of
mutation? Mutation, what I don't know, in 12th standard, we learn mutation as what? Sudden heritable change occurring in the genetic mechanism of an individual, isn't it? So I am very keen on two areas there. One is about sudden, and second is about heritable. That means how it is sustainable.
Right.
So how this happens in a discussion is when most of the time when we go for a negotiation, we have chains attached to us. We are not free to negotiate. So, but if it's a very, I would say, if people are positive, if people are informal, if people are thinking on their feet,
right?
Ability to think on your feet is very important. An existing idea, you can take it to several levels up. And many a times I've seen what we started off negotiating with and what we ended up has completely been different. But coming back to the question, one most important thing I do is whenever you go for negotiation, always be very clear what is the expected outcome. If you can write it down, I would quote Soma sir, what you can't measure and count, don't bring it into the strategic level thinking. So you need to count, you need to measure what is that is going to be. Several situations you find that when you mutate on the idea, opportunities that explore, the doors of opportunity, those are something which is unimaginable. So that is where I want to use this particular word, how you mutate on ideas being shared. Now, coming back to the question you asked is what are the skills or the strengths? Our time is there, no?
Yes. I was just, something popped up in the chat.
Okay.
Continue.
So one of the most important thing, a key skill, as you said, is probably, I don't know whether it is a skill, but I would say it's a key conviction.
Conviction.
Yes, the deep conviction that you have. And if you have a deep conviction, what will come with it? You have a lot of freebies along with, which will come along with it. One is, if you're having a deep conviction, your confidence is at that level.
Right.
Your communication skills will be very smooth, and you don't have to force a communication on people, because I've seen many a times you will be technically competent, but you will not be able to express. But still, people who are listening to you will understand. But if you're not convinced, then it will not come out. So how well are you convinced? Clarity of thought. So you can add so many things to that C. So confidence and it helps us in actually really gaining the kind of result that we want.
I'm wondering whether conviction, a deep conviction as you call it, and a deep belief in what you want to do is actually a key differentiator when it comes to leading for change. Because like you said, people can have ideas, but unless you have a deep conviction, you're not going to run behind those ideas irrespective of all the odds and make sure that happens. And not everybody is cut out for that. You have leaders who are run-of-the-mill leaders who just work with what is needed to, sustain the status quo. And then there are others like you who, despite resistance, despite barriers and insurmountable boundaries, you're still able to persist, and eventually, like you said, it's a sustainable change, sometimes a sudden push. So I'm wondering if that, in a sense, differentiates leaders who bring about change.
I am not able to understand, the way that I have been doing, because I'll tell you one thing. I am not cut out for routine things. So our former Vice Chancellor, Father Thomas used to say, you are the most unorganized person in this campus. Because now you look at the department when Dr. Kavita Desai has taken over, we gel so well because she has been able to put stability. Otherwise, people like me will always disrupt status quo, and chaos would come in. So you need to have somebody who needs somebody to stabilize this as well.
So you need the entropy and the negentropy, right?
Yes. So we need that balancing act of together. But I'll tell you one thing: this deep conviction is when it suddenly happened. Because I don't know, the time is a little too short, I would say, but it's a very interesting kind of thing which I want to share with all of us here. No, I'll not say. One of the big big companies was our blue-eyed boys. Right. Means some 16, 8 to, around, I would say around 12 to 16 people used to come down for the campus recruitment. And in the same day, they will do all the recruitment and then do it and go. And we faced a difficulty. You remember that 44 university issue and all those? Suddenly, they vanished from this scene. And we used to follow up like anything. And finally, one of the HR called up and said, look, your students will not be able to do CPA. But then I thought, well, if that is the case, we will bring CPA here. So I went up to the man of Father Thomas, and then Father said, look, you have too many things now in your board. You will not be able to do things. But I was so disturbed and distracted. I used to, Dr. Anil sir will definitely know how many times I went and pestered about this. Finally, we got it done. Third year, students created a problem. They said, where is your CPA? That was in August. That day, same, I don't know, I just came out of the class, walked straight to VC's office. I said, Father, I'm going to US. We got everything connected, and only because of this conviction that we were able to, and that's a long story, I don't want to go into that, but we were able to get their approval, and we were able to go ahead. And our students have been doing that, and by next year, they will all also add to our overall results.
Yeah, and I know from this, the real story behind this, which you told me the other day, that a couple of principles that you've already mentioned to us today. One is negotiate as equals.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And what is the locus of authority? When you first went to negotiate with that particular group, they assumed that they are in a position of power.
Yes.
But your conviction and your, perhaps should I say, assertive and maybe bordering on aggressive approach to speaking about what we do here at Christ and talking about the Christ brand is what actually won over that agreement for us.
Yes. Agreement means it is now approval. Yeah. Approval in the sense they have agreed our students to write. So this is one thing. If professional bodies, you remember once you told me a very interesting insight about students. You remember that? It was about if the faculty is very good, students engage, and if they're not as good, they will neglect or disengage, something like that you said. So if professional bodies do not respond, means we will still go ahead. We'll keep on engaging, and later on, it will definitely, and throughout the spirit, we will build on, locus authority will be still with them. Right. But locus of power will shift to us.
The power shifts.
Power shifts to us. And that makes it easy for the next time when they negotiate. And when they negotiate next time, they will have to probably yield a little more. So one important thing in our negotiations, in our discussions, always remember what are the non-negotiables and what are the negotiables. And many a case, non-negotiables from the other side becomes negotiable when you keep on pounding the results one after the other on the domain or there, and we keep them informed. So it's very important that how do you go ahead? You should have this is one thing which I want every one of us to always think about. the other day I was sharing it to someone that in second standard I read a story about monkey on a fig tree.
Right.
See, this monkey was on a fig tree and it was slanting over a lake, and every day it would take fig fruits, and then it was also feeding a crocodile below. Crocodile would come and collect. So later on, the crocodile's family, the discussion came, and the crocodile came to pick this monkey, which is having, they thought will have a very tasty heart and liver.
Right.
So the monkey goes into the deep of the lake, middle of the lake. Suddenly, the crocodile comes out with saying that actually the lunch is the monkey itself for them.
Right.
So many a time, I don't want to go further on that story, but many a time, if you are not prepared, you can have a easy free ride on the crocodile back to the middle of the lake, where probably you may not get an opportunity to get out. Sadly enough, I hold one. I'm not telling about others. For me, I had this crocodile ride, not once, twice. But what is unpardonable about this, you know what? It was the same crocodile. First attempt, I would thank Manoj sir, IT Manoj sir, for having thought about it. Otherwise, it would have been a financial mess as well. Second time, Jain sir will be able to tell how it happened. We had produced one of the best brilliant results for his MFM program. But then we made it very clear to them, look, though they give a plethora of opportunities, look, we are not going to come with you.
Yeah.
Most interestingly, crocodile returned third time, but we did not allow. So this is what I'm saying. These kind of scenarios will not unfold in a university line setup. But when you start opening up yourself for negotiations with professional bodies and maybe corporates, you will come across different kinds of undercurrents, which how do you correctly read is your political agility.
Right.
And I don't want to go into political agility, but I'll tell you, political agility isn't strength. But if you keep on asking, or if you keep on going back to it on a regular basis, what will happen, I'll tell you. The major problem is there will occur a trust deficit. You will not trust me the way that every action you will try to look at, see what is the reason behind this, why did you do this? See, I'll just give an example. I'll say, Tony sir, will you do the concluding remarks? Then you will say yes. I hope you'll say yes. So then I look at the audience and say, see, Tony sir makes a beautiful concluding remarks. He's well read. He'll make a brilliant presentation, all this. Then you will start doubting, why is it that this person talking like this? It could be my real intention, or probably my intention to hold the audience back. Not that it's a virtual medium. You don't know how many of the. See, the thing is, when you go constantly back and forth about this, you will end up losing your trust. So it should be like a cure. You have this Brahmastra, no? Right. Only once you do it.
Right.
And basically, I would consider your political agility should be such that it should be used as a steering wheel. Right. Steering wheel to ensure that you don't have a direct collision. You can move this side, that side. But at the same time, political agility is a strength that we should possess. Why? To read the googlies that we confront. Right. It is not that we have to use it, but we should know how to avoid.
And every leadership frame has its strength and weakness in a sense. And what you're highlighting is, when can political leadership or political agility go wrong? And
yes.
That is
yes.
a very interesting thought, trust deficit. Because even in layman's language, you often say if there are people who are constantly bargaining with you or trying to manipulate you for their own gain, so there's a power imbalance. we develop a trust deficit.
Correct.
But how we can use political agility positively and to create more trust. Because I'm sure now that several of the agreements that you have forged over the years, if you look at the trust level that exists between the university and between them, there's a high degree of trust.
Yes.
Because they've seen that we are accountable, we produce results, and so on.
Yes.
So I think that's an interesting point.
I also want to add up one more thing. If you look at the number of MOUs that we've had, or we still possess, each MOU is distinct and unique with all the others. Right from, say, in terms of, I wanted to actually today talk about how negotiations should be used as a tool to ensure that you are able to differentiate as a department, differentiate in each of the programs, because
from curriculum all the way to
curriculum all the way to placement. And here again, I want to have a very interesting insight from our setback Kennedy sir, Kennedy Andrew Thomas sir. So he came for one of the academic audit. So we were really flushed with success with kind of BCom professional results. Suddenly he put a spinner at us. And what is that? He says, if you take that CIMA out of your BCom professional program, will it be a different BCom program or just a plain BCom program? I'm just saying in the national parlance how it will be a BCom program. We gave some answers, but this question tormented. I went back and I was perturbed by this question. And that made us to think about negotiating with the professional bodies on not the conventional level, but then on an incremental level. And that is why I was so impressed with this particular concept called ICOR, incremental capital output ratio. Right. So what is that little additional effort that you invest to bring in an additional, more than I would say commensurate kind of a return? So when this, I would say Kennedy sir's torpedo has let us started working. And then we started talking to, till then, they were not willing for an integration. They were not willing for a different, exemptions. They were not willing to support on certain areas. They wanted exemptions. So many things were there. But through this beautiful kind of negotiations, which I think will not permit us within the span of say 10 or 15 or half an hour, but it helped to scale new heights and very clearly demarcate a relationship between the body and with this BCom professional. So I always think many times people ask, which of your program is good?
Right.
So I tell what my grandma used to say. My grandma had 12 kids, so some of the people just wanted to irritate her or perturb her. So which of your daughter son that you are more close with? She says Jaggery, no? Yeah. Jaggery does not have you can't differentiate between which is the son. So she says, for me, every kid is like a mom. Right. So for us, all these professional programs, every program is distinct, unique, and I would say one of the, and what happens when I go for the final negotiation, if it was not from within the crisis family, I wouldn't say, but I often I feel shy about telling it. Before I go for the final negotiation, I write one sentence. You know what that sentence? BComp or whatever program, I'll write and say, this will be the best, the most unique program. Earlier, I used to be less ambitious. I used to say in the country. Now I've changed that.
You say in the world?
I say in the world. And many people laugh at me. I don't bother because, as I said, deep conviction.
Right.
And you're very sure about it. And there was a big discussion at home. see, when the ultimate litmus test comes, when your son or daughter has to take an admission, isn't it? So when my son plus two, he studied in junior college here.
Right.
So they all wanted to know, and there was a furor at home. They said, my son bluntly told me, don't tell anybody. He said, he doesn't want to join the department because you are there. I can't move left, right, center because of you. I said, I will just ignore you. And luckily, today I'm very happy. Forget about being a director. I'm also happy as a parent. Why? Because he's doing extremely well.
Yeah. And like the torpedo that you received from Dr. Kennedy during the audit, there was another interesting question you asked me yesterday. You asked, if we remove the students in our campus out of the equation, will our curriculum then be as good? Do you want to say a few things about the uniqueness of our students here, and perhaps why we don't use them as much as we should as a important USP for?
Yes, this is where I don't think you have to give me one more hour, but I will.
I'll give you 7 minutes.
I will tell you. I want to restate it once more. What makes our university unique and distinct? So many things are there. Our faculty are excellent. Our of course, our management. I really appreciate the kind of freedom given by all our leadership members, even Father Abraham. The freedom to fail. That is a beautiful kind of freedom. Yeah. Freedom that. So you look at a number of things that make this university unique and distinct. But if you have to apply 80-20 rule, I would definitely say the biggest strength of ours is our students. And the day I'm always worried about it. The day we lose our student strength, probably we would be just like any other institution.
Are we conversing enough with our students? Are we dialoguing with them enough?
That is where I feel, I told you, that the relationship, see, if you want to hone up your communication skills, negotiation skills, you don't have to step out of the crease of your comfort zone. You don't have to go to corporates. You don't have to go to professional bodies. Start with our students. They're brilliant negotiators. You talk to them. They will tell you. I'll give you a good example. You know what? I call a puzzle. You know what is that? 110, 119, 110. What is that? It is in the fourth block. We have room number 110.
Yeah.
Then we have 119. And then we go back to 110. You know what it is? 110, we take the people whom you want to negotiate with. We bring them there. We have intense negotiation.
Right.
And then we take them to 119.
Right.
Wherein the same set of people will be there in that room. But on the fringes, you will have 2 rows of our students, and especially the students of that particular program. If it is BComP, they will be there first year, second year, third years. And we will also select the informal leaders amongst them. And again, one more round of discussion we'll have, and then we will leave it to the students.
They'll talk.
They nail it. They're not talking, they will nail it. And the kind of questions that they ask to the professional bodies, which, like I'm very blunt and open, but certain things I will also feel a little because I have to look at the institution I represent. But for students, they don't have any problem. So they'll bluntly ask, and then and there, it gets nailed. I call it as our discussions, our negotiations reaching not tropographic levels, it is a stratigraphic level.
That's a metaphor from atmosphere.
Environment. See, troposphere is the first layer, and the second sphere is stratosphere.
Right.
All pilots fly in that stratosphere level. Now, I would say, if you use intelligently, you can even take it to the exosphere levels. You know what? I'll just give an example. We were, Suniti ma'am will be able to tell me, 3 years back, we started a negotiation with the professional body in Australia. And it carried on. We will walk off because both the parties were not willing to, non-negotiables were very high. Because they designed the program only for postgraduates. So what we did was, when they came, the important decision makers came, our Dr. Anuradha ma'am, with the support of Dr. Kavita, they identified some brilliant students in the final year. And I must really appreciate a boy by name Raghavendra. He prepared, he mapped the entire curriculum of CPA curriculum. And he was the one who presented to the visiting team. And he also answered every query that they had. You know what happened? Now, the discussion is, now they don't have any problem with the particular program, where with the paper exemptions and so on, which I don't want to discuss further on this. But what I'm trying to say is, are we overlooking, are we squandering on our strength? I have taken them to many discussions in corporates, and one another interesting area of negotiation sometimes I do is, we also bring the corporates to the negotiating table. So corporates, 119 is a very important place for us. We bring, corporates are there, we have professional bodies, so corporates will start speaking. So we have taken 170 students, not from our department alone, university, all the, and everybody is doing exceptionally well and all, they'll say. And then it will be taken over by the professional body. They'll say, your students are all passing the exam. And this will, what is the distinct message it is communicated to the students? And the informal leaders, and mind you, we are really squandering on the strength, because these are the students who communicate very well with the peer group. And I remember a distinct occasion. I will not leave that Nana Samanvaya from all my talks. We took our students to Chikmagalur College. And we did not take the, probably, I must say, the people who were not very academically focused and all those, maybe
just for the information of the audience, this is a project, this was a social outreach project by the university.
With Kuvempu University, under the aegis of the government of Karnataka.
Your students got an opportunity to go and serve in another institution.
Yes. They went as trainers. And see, here again, I just want to go back to the negotiation aspect. What did I say? It is between equals, isn't it?
Right.
Our students, and we would definitely will think that, okay, we have come, white man's burden, no? That we have heard about that. So we have come to enlighten you. I told you very clearly, in setting the expectations, I told them, look, we are also going to learn from them. And we had brilliant learning from them. So what I found is, when the students went and interacted with the students there, these students were actually preparing well for the interaction there. So I'm very particular that we should take up our social reach out, university reach out programs in as many areas as possible, because learning if you do within the campus and it is in that fold of learning, it will never, the learning is like how they curate themselves, how do that self-learning, how do they do the deep diving on concepts. These are important. So therefore, I think the kind of opportunities, the strength that our students have, you should definitely be considering. Can I add one more thing? Because when we introduced our BCom professional program, there was a huge revolt in the department, because some of the students came and said, you have brought this program without our consent. I said, you should have discussed with us. And many parents came. So we talked to them and I told them, give me time till December. And unfortunately, in the first attempt, that is the CBA level, which is called Certificate in Business Accounting paper. The first attempt, we sent the 30 students, all 30 failed. So I thought all the plans were going to come crashing down. But we beautifully maneuvered through it because we took them. I don't want to spend it, that's a long story. But what is that December deadline? It was the time when students would write not the 5 papers they have to clear, fundamentals, all cleared. I would really thank Dr. Rejoice for the kind of support he extended to all of them. And then in the first attempt on the December exam, at 11 o'clock, they came grabbing me in the room. They said, they have exam at 2 o'clock, they want study time. I said, no, you go at only 12 o'clock. So there was a lot, they were all agitated. I said, I will be waiting for you at 5:30 here. Come back after the exam and tell me what is that you observed. You know what? I was waiting, and they all came back at 5:30. I said, what did you observe? Sir, grandfathers were sitting with us and writing the exam. Right. So almost only these were the kids. The others were all very senior people. They were CFOs there, CEOs, no, but senior managers and people were there. And that did the convincing. We didn't have to do anything about it. So, but when the results came, our students were done extremely well. And so much so that Father Thomas once told me, don't keep trumpeting too much, but I can't help this. Because in the last November examination, we have got 100% result in CIMA. Just a few days back, we got that, it's a kind of, but you can't say it's a professional examination. So in the last exam, just 4 or 5 days back, Insurance Institute of India's program was there. We continuously, we are bagging the first track. And you should remember, these are all insurance professionals, aging between 30 to 50 years and so on. But students are able to crack. I don't know. One challenge, personally, if you ask me about students is, one is, how do you keep on? Because there should be, there sometimes bordering arrogance and overconfidence. That how do you mellow down? How do you strengthen their fundamentals? Right. So if you ask me what we do with the student, if you have to address the student strength, I would say the first year, we create student expectations. Second year, we ensure that they match with the expectation. Third year, if the department has to remain unique, we always think exceed the expectation of the students. And that makes a huge impact. Outside world today, we have our alumni spread across the globe.
Very interesting principle, because this is something that we don't really talk about in curriculum planning, or when we think about students as important stakeholders. We kind of know what their expectations are in a sense, but are we doing things actively to meet those expectations and even exceed those expectations? Because as academics, we often stick within boundaries of curriculum, learning outcomes, objectives, research paper, and so on. And we are unable to really tap that social and emotional, relevance that students bring to the classroom. So I think that's a key thought for us to kind of wind up this conversation in a sense, because the time is almost up.
Okay.
But really,
I wanted to say something. I forgot.
It might come, but two quick questions from the chat box. One is from the Dean of Commerce, Professor Tommy. He's asking about the role of emotions, because negotiating, taking risks, talking to people is an emotional experience as well.
Correct.
Right? So he's asking, do you need to exercise some kind of emotional labor? Like, do you show those emotions? How real should you be? How authentic should you be when you're at the negotiating table and you want to push?
See, recently I forgot who was that. I had a beautiful video in which he was going to be a radio jockey and he was going to address. He says the best way that you can approach a person is to be honest.
To be honest, which means
very clearly. See, I genuinely love negotiation. I really love the kind of, so when your energy levels are so high, when your enthusiasm is very high, when you're very passionate, I would I don't know whether I said in the earlier remark also, all those obstacles blow away. And people want to associate with people with energy. In fact, I wanted to discuss a very interesting concept about critical mass and critical number. And critical number in your department, your time is up?
1 minute.
Yeah, critical number. You find out what is your critical number in the department. What do I mean by this is, if you don't have level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, and descending order, if you don't have those people with you, and it is only the HOD or the seniors doing a monologue in an organization, in a department, I don't think there will be the kind of results will come. So don't think that in negotiation it will all work well. No, it is an exercise which you should start from your departmental meeting. In your departmental meeting, forgive me for saying this, because in our departmental we follow very flat structure, and we pull each other, we enjoy, and all our departmental meetings are such a kind of a good feel factor. And when that happens, people also will know how to think. Thinking on your feet will happen, their confidence. Otherwise, it will be like our students saying, no, at the interview, I will speak this way. Nothing will happen. So they have to prepare now. You have to prepare our people right now. So how do you have a critical number? In my department, I want to say quite a lot of people who are so energetic. So I call somebody called a Professor Mr. Energy. You know what this professor is all about? At 9 o'clock in the morning, you call him, good morning, sir. You deliberately do this. Good morning, sir, he'll say. Okay. Then in the afternoon, you say, good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, sir, right. He'll say. And late in the night when everybody is, you say, good evening. See the energy. Right. Now you can identify people who have got energy with you, who are positively inclined. We have a Miss Initiative. Whenever I ask something in the department, she would say, I will. And later she would come and ask me, what is that you are talking about? See, the initiative is something. Time's up?
No, it's some cross connection. I think someone's got their audio on. Sam, sir, can you just mute whoever has got their audio on?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thanks.
Time is up.
There's one last question.
Before that, I'll just say that this is the problem if you give the problem is when you give a mic. Critical mass is something which I would want everybody. See, when you are going for a negotiation, 12 items are there. How do you tick mark? Out of 12, at least you should have 6 in the category where you have had, and then you go for negotiation. Right. I have negotiated with somebody with 300 years of existence in I don't want to say which, it will be revealing. Yeah. And when I went there in London to negotiate with them, it was one of the toughest negotiations I've ever had. You know what? First of all, I expressed my displeasure because I couldn't meet the director, the president. So the next in command came for the meeting. And I asked him, are you a decision maker? Only then we will start. Otherwise, I don't want to waste my time. So he said, yes. And for everything I asked, I want to go back to the board. Then I said, do you know why we came here? We don't want your logo to be put in our webpage, though you would like to, or maybe other institutions. We don't want. We don't want your curriculum. We don't want your teaching assistant. We don't want your placement. We don't want your internship. And it started going. Suddenly he said, what is that you want?
Right.
Then I said, we want paper exhibitions. You map our curriculum and we don't want anything else. Then he said, why don't you apply in the draft? We said, we will not do it. So, but we know locus of power is slowly shifting towards us. So the point he was mentioning is world across QS ranking, Times International, whatever ranking, higher ranking are all there with the university and they have complied. I said it is, I don't know, their lookout. For us, we are a better brand, better known name and you will be benefited by associating with us. So are we really leveraging on the brand that we have? Or are we just, as I said, taking a deep, free ride into the middle of the lake?
Like you said, negotiate as equals. And
yes, that is very important.
The esteem that we have for ourselves and for our institution needs to be that much.
Yes.
Right? If we in our mind think that we are less than others, then that becomes a stumbling block for us.
Yes.
It was great listening to you. I also had the opportunity to listen to you the other day, and there's a lot more that we can pick up. In fact, one thing that I really liked in your communication and stories is the use of metaphors. Quite a few metaphors that we couldn't use today, but for another time. And I think we can draw out some really good stories for academicians in our university to take the university forward, especially when it comes to negotiating. Considering that higher education scenario is changing and the job market is actually an important factor in determining, how education in higher education centers like ours is modeled.
Can I come in once more?
How long?
No, only 1 minute.
30 seconds. 30 seconds. Yeah. After this point,
I will stop. I'll stop.
You stop, and a couple of questions from the audience, and maybe some concluding remarks from.
This is about the theory of natural selection. How do you put it in your program? See, this is very, very important. Till March, we had a different kind of an environment. Right. Ecosystem. Right. After March, you look at what is happening in all the universities and institutions across in our country. I would really appreciate Father Abraham and all the leaders for being so politically agile, so smart in picking up that decision to make the people write the exam. That is a crucial winner for us. So what I'm trying to say is the most important thing is environment has changed. And if you do not tone up your skills, and this is one important area where your negotiation skills, your persuasion skills, your problem solving skills, all those things are very, very critical and crucial to especially administrators, educational administrators. I will keep quiet.
In fact, you mentioned that in your write-up. You said that the COVID pandemic, and I'm reading from the write-up, was the litmus test for educational institutions to all use. And those institutions with a higher level of political resilience and agility would wade through the rough sea relatively unscathed. And Christ University did that.
Yes.
In many ways. So
many corporates complimented us for taking that
particular
decision.
Step. Yeah. We'll open up. The floor for a couple of questions and also some thoughts from our Vice Chancellor. I know that he's here in the meeting, so I'd like to also ask him if he has some thoughts to share with us today. There was one question: do you feel restless when it comes to negotiation? How do you manage your own emotions? Is that important for you in the first?
Yeah, no. I don't know. Sometimes I feel angry. Right. That is the restlessness.
Right.
Otherwise, I never feel unsure.
Right.
I don't know whether it is, I learned from our students.
Right. You may be angry, but
I will be.
You're sure about what you're.
Yes.
I think that's like a real anchor that you can.
Yes. And it also pumps in adrenaline and energy, no?
Yep.
Then when you talk, that will make a difference. Yes.
There's a comment that from your colleague, Professor Anuradha, that you are a synonym to way forward. So, Binarasi says that you're a leader that you always admire. So, colleagues, let's open this up for maybe one or two comments or questions, and then I'll request Father Abraham to share a few thoughts, if you may, Father, your own take on political agility and so on, and then we'll wind up this conversation session. I think Father Abraham will speak.
Yeah,
share some thoughts.
Thank you, Professor Biju Tom, for your wonderful sharing. I think many of the participants may be listening to you first time, because all might be ahead of you But I have listened to you and I heard about you from Father Thomas. The most innovative person in the campus is Biju Toms. You always used to tell Father Thomas. He comes with ideas and passion. So you are sharing the same passion today. So thank you so much in the name of the university. And the great thing you stressed is your belief, your faith in your students. You are always telling very high of your students. And I think that is something remarkable. And they are. And negotiation also, you go many times and you used to tell me, I do a lot of homework, lot of thinking. Then only I go for a negotiation, maybe SEMA or ACCA or anywhere. And you will not come back failed. You will be always a winner. Last time you were unofficially telling me that SEMA people, I fired them because we are the #1 institution in the world producing the SEMA students, SEMA people, and they are not recognizing us as the best institution in the world. At this time, you got 3 awards from SEMA. So
4 awards, Father.
The newspaper we gave 3, I think.
4 awards.
Yeah, I remember I gave to the media this. Tomorrow also media will cover our BBA decision making. Times of India called me now today about the budget and so on. Okay, by the way, you're doing that a high impression about the students and even about your colleague. I heard that you're appreciating your HOD Kavita Desai for her organization and all these things. Usually, nobody will tell about their subordinates. Okay, it's so high of that. So that also I appreciate. You appreciate the students, your colleagues, and your subordinates. That is something praiseworthy, and that is maybe the. But one apprehension I had whenever we had the result analysis, the become professional students will get less marks, even though the students are very high profile and so on. They won't get distinction. They get a just first class or high second class like that. Incidentally, I got a phone call now during your conversation. And one boy from BBF Funday, he got a placement already. Father, I got my result. What? How is the result? I got 83% distinction. First time he is getting distinction because of the online examination. He's a serious student, always getting 70s above. He's excited. So when we accept the students at the same time, excusing them with the giving marks and so on, or without giving marks, but it is not affecting them. They are very wanted. They know their power. They believe in the power they have, not in the marks. You also believe in that internal power. So that will be your strength in negotiation also. That means I'll go to Australia. I'll get it done. Whatever is done by the postgraduates in Australia will be done by our undergraduates, and you are confident that our students will come into a very successful way. CP exam, sorry, that is CP Australia. Okay, CP Australia. So thank you so much for your passion. Please continue the passion, and also it is a good lesson for the listeners, because as I told you, maybe first time they may be seeing your passion and interest. And I'm wondering how you can remember the definition of mutation you learned in standard. Are you studying by heart or?
He remembers all basic science.
Yes, I studied well.
So thank you so much. Tony, continue.
Thank you, Father Abraham, for those words. There is some discussion in the chat box, some comments from your colleague Matthew. He says that your tagline is "Think the Impossible." He's comparing that to ACC's tagline, "Think Ahead." And like Father Abraham said, several of your colleagues in your department know you fairly well, but the university hasn't had an opportunity to listen to you. And I think this was a great opportunity for you to talk to the rest of us about some of your great success stories. And what's really clear from this sharing is that no matter what, you're confident, you're sure about what you want to do, you prepare well, and then you push yourself till you achieve that, which I think is a motivation for
Yes,
for
sir.
the rest of us. So thank you very much
Thank
for
you. Thank
spending
you so
time with us. We'll talk again soon on some of these concepts, because I think this needs to come into the DNA of the institution, so that we can take the institution forward. So really appreciate you talking to us. There are comments coming in the chat box. Professor Mallika says very engaging and candid, beautifully presented, and so on. But that's it for today. We have run out of time, but we'll take this conversation forward. Please speak to Professor Biju Tom when you get some time on campus, and pull him away for a cup of tea. And there are several other interesting stories and metaphors that he'll share with you. We are negotiating with him to do a workshop with us on political agility, and he told us that based on the outcome of today's session, he will decide. So I think the outcome is fairly good, Professor Biju Tom. So Sam will get in touch with you.
Not on a virtual space. I would want it on.
We'll do it on campus. Yeah. Some tips on how how as leaders we can negotiate, and so on and so forth. So thank you so much. Over to Sam for some conclusions and announcements. Thank you.